Right, welcome back everyone. Short disclaimer about the video. Halfway through, my son woke up, my wife was taking a nap, so I had to take care of him, and I don't think him screaming with my analysis is great content, and I'm not so sure how much I want to show of him while I was standing around holding him, so the game part of this video is going to be a bit shorter, and I'll just kind of work a bit harder in the analysis because it was a fascinating game, and I promise my 1 month old did not give me too much outside assistance. But yeah, let's get into it. Alright, good morning and welcome back to the Road to Better Chess, the game show where the points don't matter. We are happy to get a quick game in while the little man is sleeping. We're facing e4, so we're going to go c5. Let's get into that Sicilian. And alright, looks like it might be an open Sicilian. Knight f3, we can go knight c6, might be a Rossolimo, might be a delayed elephant still. It is a Rossolimo, okay, we're going to go g6, main move. There is also e6, another interesting move. There's also knight f3 directly, I think. We end up jumping the knight around like this. But let's just play our standard moves. I was actually thinking a bit about what's been happening the last few games where we end up getting into time trouble almost every single time. But then we hold on during the time trouble, in the last minute or two, even though the increment is only 10 seconds, and we're able to clinch a lot of those games. I wonder if that's actually because when I don't have the time for the long games, I'm just playing 3-3-2 blitz. I've never been a good blitz player, but maybe I'm getting better. Alright, so my understanding in this position is that actually this is a fine move. I'm going to go ahead and play e5, which is a continuation I quite like. And we'll see. I'm clutching onto that d4 square. So, okay, great. And white takes, not necessary, but it is fine. They had the option not to take, and we have two ways to take back, and we are going to do the setup which we enjoy is to take with the d pawn, which seems a little bit silly. You normally take towards the center, but this opens up a light square bishop, and we just have um, so much control. And now the only thing is where we want to put this knight. I normally go here. Ooh, connection dropping. That's not good. Building secure connection. There we go. Alright, we're back. I again don't remember exactly what that continuation looks like, so I'm actually just going to play here again. I don't mind if they come in here because we can always play f6, which is not a problem because the light square bishop is gone and we could always put ours on the very important square. Alright, so this is a continuation that's quite normal. We're going to play b6, and this is the kind of queen's pawn structure that we were looking for, and a little bit of this. And this pawn can help us break at some point if we want to, which is one of the standard ideas in the Rossolimo for black, I think, is actually to end up launching a kingside attack. Right, what did white do? A3. Interesting. Alright, little man looks like he's down again. We continue a bit longer. Hello. What shall we do? How shall we continue? Queen out seems... Oopsie. Queen out seems fine. This seems okay. We could go directly into this break, but I don't really know if that's really what we feel like doing. H6 is also a move. Alright, let's just get our queen out. We're going to put our light square bishop out. We're going to get our other rook in the game somewhere. And let's see what white intends to do here. I do think if we do this, we might end up taking with the g-pawn actually, to build a potential f4 into the game. Could be pretty good for us. Attacking that pawn again. Fair enough. This actually does make me kind of want to do this because I can snap off, but they might come here, which means we want to play this first maybe and then here and then our rook over. Um, let's see, anything else? No, this should be... The only trick here is that then we will be... They'd be able to sack for 2 pawns, but I don't think it's worth it. Okay, so we're going to go h6, king h7, and then, oopsie, bishop e6, hitting that knight, and rook a d8. Yeah, the bony monitor wasn't working. Why wasn't the baby monitor working, huh? Wat gaan aan, baby? Wat gaan aan? Alright, now we can do this. King h7 is only necessary if they put a battery on their dark squares with the queen and the bishop, so until they do, we don't really have to worry about it. They haven't finished their development yet. They still have to figure out what to do with the queen to connect the rooks. Nee, sê ek ook mos nou. So yeah, this could be interesting. If we end up going for a kingside attack, the break with f5, taking with the g pawn, opening up that g file could be very spicy. Very spicy indeed. It is okay, mate. Like, this does look like a good idea in general, but we would have an isolated pawn, and they have c3 kicking our knight from that square, so I think it's a bit of a short-term gain. Unless there's like some concrete calculation in there, I don't think it's going to be good. So let's not do that. Nee, ek speel 'n bietjie skaak, mannetjie. Yeah, yeah. What? Yeah, this little man is why I can't be playing the league right now, and why it's so difficult to find time to play even these games. Huh? But he's so chill. We don't have any diaper problems right now, we're not hungry right now, we're just awake. We're just awake. Nee. We go play a little bit again. We can do a little tummy times and things. Yeah. Yeah. Always tired. Always sleepy, eh? Okay, just don't scratch your face. Gotta clip the nails again. B3. I have absolutely no idea what our opponent is doing. I'm just gonna continue with my plan. I guess they see that I can, but I also have this now, which means I could end up breaking on the queen side. Well, actually, then maybe I should have used my F rook, so keep the other one on the B file. Alright, this doesn't work now because the king can take it. Unfortunate. We can do this and we can get in here though. And your rook can't move sideways, so you have to trade. So I guess that's good enough. You can protect it with your king. That doesn't matter. We'll still be winning. Hey, buddy. There we go. Alright, so we were black in this game and we started off with c5 against this e4 by white, getting into a Sicilian, and after knight f6 it could be an open Sicilian, knight c6, and then they played bishop e5, which is the Rossolimo. It's got a longer name, which I don't think anyone ever uses. We just all call it the Rossolimo. In this series we have had one game against the Rossolimo, and our opponent played some less optimal moves, if I remember correctly, and it was actually quite an easy game, and we kind of steamrolled them. In the end, it was really nice. Now we're a little bit higher rated, so we're expecting a bit of a tougher fight, but we played basically the same variation. So g6, which is main line, they castle, get our bishop out, the rook over is one of the main moves, c3 I think is the other main move, and here we decided to play e5, which is my favorite line, stops white from getting that e-pawn rolling, and it doesn't matter if they take our knight, we still have this pawn defended, we're clamping down hard on d4, so this is just a comfortable Rossolimo, I think, for black. Here I think one of the main moves is to drop the bishop back. There's still c3 in this position, I'm guessing, but they took my knight. I always love to see it because then I can take back with the d-pawn and get the structure that we're going for. We're going to get pawns like this on the queen side, very strong, Still clamping down on d4, and our light scared bishop is also coming out, and we have this f5 break potentially. In this game we did use it. So d3, all good. We bring our knight out. I know that this is a move, not specifically in this position. Maybe it's knight first and a queen first in this. I mentioned it in the game. I don't remember how that line goes, so I just played the line I know. My bishop's defending my pawn, so knight e7. My knight's out. I can castle, and the knight also kind of helps with this f5 break potentially if we go for it. So bishop out, we get our pawn structure as advertised. We were always going to get this. The doubled c pawns don't bother us, and in fact this backward c pawn actually takes care of the d5 square, which is important because this is one of the easy squares that white wants to try and take a hold of because it's a nice outpost, but we stop them very, very comfortably. And with b6, obviously these pawns are also very, very strong, so their dark square bishop isn't doing much of anything. Also, if they try to break us down, we can always take ones and then push, and we'll still have a very strong queen side. So yeah, there's not much to hate about this pawn structure, I think. Alright, there, knight comes out. It's coming to the c4 square probably. It's a very good outpost. They're going to double attack our e5 pawn, but this is nothing new. So we castle a3 first, which I was a bit surprised by. I think white wasn't exactly sure what they wanted to do. I think c3, maybe even d4 later on is still a kind of critical line to consider. Maybe they were looking at b4 as well, but as said, I think that's very comfortable for us. If they have a push, we can go past, and we still just have a very, very strong queen side. Anyway, queen out, here comes that knight, and we didn't do this, but I think actually in the first game in this series where we played against the Rossolimo, b5 was a move in some positions, and we did consider it here once or twice, but it's just never really worth it. We don't want to lose this pawn because it helps with the d4 square, and also I'm just checking. That's all good. And this is a dark square diagonal that we're not covering with our bishop, so I think if you want to go b5, you've got to be very careful to make sure that it's good, because it weakens your structure here. So the reason we played h6 is because we had a nice idea of playing bishop e6 and then rook a d8 and then potentially snapping off that knight and having them take with the d pawn, which gives us a symmetrical position but felt like it is a bit more comfortable for us. Maybe we can get at that square. If we push eventually, they would have no pawns here, and we would maybe have our rook already on the file. So this was kind of like a general idea. Looking at it now, maybe this wasn't going to be a very like especially strong plan, but I like this e6 square for our light square bishop. There's also, we could put it here. We could take the knight, for instance, because we're going to end up taking one of the knights with the light square bishop. I think this is kind of something I'm seeing happening in all our games with the Rossolimo now. So we're going to try snap off one of the knights. We have the bishop pair, but actually at the end of the day, snapping off a knight is pretty useful a lot of the time. So they stop us from coming in here. We could have already done it. Again, I think maybe white didn't really have a clear plan for themselves. They've just played bunny ears now. But anyway, so here comes our bishop. Now this knight can't jump here. If their queen comes out to battery the pawn, we can still we can move our king up there to defend it, which is still pretty good. I do also think in our previous Rossolimo game there was something like this, where you end up with the pawns here, but maybe that's a little bit more specific to the situation. And I did mention it in the game that at least in the main line for this way of playing, a kingside attack is actually what ends up happening. So black ends up trying to like get into this side of the board in one way or another. This f5 break probably quite critical because the queen side is kind of difficult. We've got a lot of pawns and it's very safe, but advancing these pawns is a little bit, it's not the way we set up because we have this fianchetto. It's hard to move our b pawn because the c pawn is going to be weak and so on. Still getting the feeling that white maybe now afterwards in the game I didn't quite think of it like that, but getting the feeling that maybe white isn't so clear in exactly what their plan is, but it does look like they have an idea. I'm going to snap here, so they're looking to take with the b pawn and have a pretty good pawn structure in the center, pretty solid. This does, however, weaken the light square, the dark square diagonal, which is something we looked at a bit later in the game. So rook over, very easy for us. We knew our plan up to here at least. Knight back. This was a bit surprising. I guess there's defense here, but probably it's also about this break. And so here I was a bit unsure what we wanted to do. But I decided, you know what, I think we are going to break. And importantly, we're not going to take with a knight because none of these squares I think was really worth it. We were going to take back with the g-pawn. We're going to have an f and a g-pawn. We can threaten the dark square bishop. We can threaten a break with the e-pawn, which hits the knight, so the rook. So the f5 break looked really good for us here. Also, we've got our rooks on the semi-open files in that case, so it just looks like we are ready and white isn't. The queen still hasn't moved. The bishop is a little bit out of position. So is this knight. That rook isn't playing. So yeah, if the game opens up right now, it feels like it's much better for us. So here we go with the break. Yep, they took one, which I was happy to see. Uh, I mean, probably it's better for us long term anyway. But if they, for instance, played f3, I think I actually would have continued. Maybe I should have taken in that case. I'm not sure. They'd have taken back with their f-pawn as well, and then we've got this, and we've got an isolated pawn, so maybe I would have pushed. I think I mentioned it in the game that if they don't take, I would actually push past. The move I wasn't sure about in this position was f4. Because they moved their knight, I wondered what would happen if they also opened up, but I realized that actually this is just very good for us because we can take here, the pawn's protected by our queen, it's hitting the bishop, and we're also hitting the rook, so f4 would actually just be a bit of a mistake. So we took back. Our king is a bit open. You know, we got to be careful what's happening here, but this square is currently being taken care of. Yeah, the queen coming in just isn't really that much of a threat. We do have the chance to play our king over if we have to, but we have to be aware of it, right? Because we're opening up the position around our king. You don't want to run into a situation where they end up having a really nice four. Actually, they did have a move further down, which I thought maybe was very good for them, but thankfully they didn't play it. So our threat here, very clear, we're going to play the f pawn up and trap that bishop. So they jump their knight back again, because we haven't taken, because now the bishop needs a place to go. And here I think I spent quite a bit of time, but also at this point I think I was already holding my son. The f pawn going forward looks very strong for us. The e pawn going forward looks very strong for us, but also chopping off the knight first seems pretty good too. It just kind of it simplifies the position in a way that seemed kind of good for us. So I was really unsure. I think the point of the knight chop for me was also they have to take with the b pawn, and then I thought maybe I could push, hit this, and then we can isolate some pawns, or we can, like, I don't know, weaken some pawns, or I don't know. I think I was calculating a bit incorrectly at the time. I thought I could isolate pawns on the c file, but I just realized that they would just take back and have a backwards pawn, which they did have in the game, but no isolated pawn, so I was a little bit lost here. Anyway, honestly, everything looks good. Probably all of that is good, to be honest. I think I went with the f pawn. No, I went with the e pawn. Okay, so I went directly for this, and I also have this threat here. Yeah, in hindsight, which is best? F pawn up, the bishop has to drop back somewhere. It could have been good to play f pawn up maybe once, and then again even. We did eventually have a pawn on f3, but maybe this was a good way. Oh, my baby monitor connection's dying. Let me just sorry, let me just put it on again. The wife is with the little man, but just in case something happens, I want to be within reach. Okay. Nope, the connection is still terrible. Oh man, my internet at home has gotten so bad this year. Alright, so yeah, we did have a pawn on f3 eventually, but I didn't really consider just running our pawns in there up front. Probably could have considered it though. Okay, we're back online. Taking first, they would have taken back here, and then pushing. Little man is crying. Yo. think he's overtired. It's tough. We had his 1 month checkup today, so it's a long time in the hospital. Yeah, so this was the other plan I had, to take the knight first. Then the rook would have to move. Then we get the same pawn structure. We could still play the f pawn afterwards, actually. So maybe this was interchangeable, actually, because these two pawns don't need each other to do what they're doing. The only trick is that once we take, we've got to be careful we don't hang the bishop. Wait, wait, wait. Oh, my wife's being a champion. Little man is just having a rough time. Alright, so we decided to play with the e-pawn. We will check if the engine, if it says which one was better here. Honestly, I think all of it kind of wins at this point, at least overall. We probably still have to win the game, but yeah. So e-pawn up, they move the rook out of the way, and now we can take once. And actually, you know what, maybe, yeah, but I didn't want to keep this knight here. There was this idea to push back the pawn at this situation, and then maybe take, and they'd have to take back with the pawn, and they'd have like an isolated pawn on the file here. We could come in and on this square at some point, but I couldn't calculate all of it, and even looking at it now, I'm not so sure. Let's see if we can find something. Knight has to go back somewhere. Take. Actually, you know what? We could have done this. This would have been quite strong. How would they? Oh, the knight was here. That wouldn't work. Then I have to take once first. But that might have been a way to play. All right, we'll see. Anyway, um, they decided to. So I decided to just take once. And now I've isolated the pawn, but I didn't really know if this worked. It was hard to figure it all out, and I had a little bit of a preoccupied situation. I do realize if I do this, the bishop has to go back all the way there, so that could be good as well. Then we could maybe, for instance, attack the pawn twice by putting our queen over. The knight could defend it here, I guess. Wow, we would just be completely crushing the position, if not the game. I mean, in that case, we could snap off, and then we could snap off here, which would be pretty strong as well. Although after we push this pawn, this is the check that. Oh no, hang on, our bishop would still be here because this is the check that they got in the game. All right, so maybe there was a better way, but at this point, I think I just snapped off the knight because I couldn't figure out how to do it. I realized that a backwards d pawn does look pretty good for us. And here it becomes quite speculative. I don't really know if I'm winning anymore here. So I played the f-pawn up. They played back, like I just said. But now we don't have the light square bishop anymore, so I can't do this. And so I played my knight up, looking to get into that juicy square there. Um, and after this, I did consider snapping off the bishop and then putting my knight in, because then my knight is kind of uncontested on this amazing square. I couldn't quite figure out if it works or not. So I decided, you know what, let's not trade. Let's just put our knight there. If they take, we can take back with the knight or the pawn or the bishop, and we would just have the bishop versus a knight, which could be good. But now you can obviously see also that this g pawn is weak. So we'd have to be careful about what happens there and where our king goes, because the light squares are going to be weak, and they have this e file now. We've actually given it to them. So knight out, I didn't see this coming. This was a nice move by them, and I got stuck here for a while as well. I wasn't sure what to do. Um, I did consider moving my queen over here. Yeah, like, I don't know. I was trying to figure this out, but I played the only move that I thought was worthwhile, and that is just continue pushing the pawn. And after they take the bishop, I decided to take back with the bishop because it's looking at the king, and I thought this would be worth it. Even if we lose the pawn, if we don't sack, I'll try to make the sack work as well, but currently it's only the rook, and so the queen's going to take back. So I need to bring my queen in. Um, and also if they take there, I could still take this way or with the rook. But yeah, now I don't actually know if I'm better anymore. This is a bit of a situation. So in this position, I couldn't figure out if I could make this work, if I should take this pawn first, if I should move my bishop out of the way and to hit this. Do I bring my queen across? And if you take, do I take back, double up, attacking this pawn, also attacking this pawn? I was really unsure what to do here. Um, so yeah, in the end, I found the most aggressive move. I don't know if it's the best one, but our opponent kind of blundered after this. So I found, oopsie daisy, I found, here, I found queen g3. Pawn is pinned to the king, and pawn is pinned to the king, which means that my queen can't be taken, and actually this knight is currently hanging. So originally I thought, oh, actually there's so many ways that our opponent can defend the situation, it can't be good, but actually that's not the case. If they block our bishop, obviously we can take, and we would be up the exchange. Um, and then we can see, I don't know exactly what we would do in that situation, but we would try to win. Duh. If they block here, this knight is hanging because currently the queen and the pawn is defending it. If they put their queen up to either of these positions, again this knight is hanging because it's actually just defended by the queen currently. And if we put the queen here, I was gonna play rook de8 and probably sacrifice two rooks for the queen. And at that point, this rook would have to run away somewhere, and I would reevaluate if I can take this pawn or if I should move my queen, somewhere else and try and find another avenue of attack. However, our opponent played rook b2, and this doesn't answer the threat. Actually, I realize in hindsight, no, it's fine. Rook b2, and this doesn't answer the threat of the double attacked knight, but critically it also adds the problem of the rook hanging if my bishop is still available. So obviously if I take the rook now, my queen hangs, and I'm basically lost. However, if I take the knight first, can't take this way, can't take this way, can take with your queen, and they did. Then I take their queen first. Now you can't move your rook because you need to take a queen. And then I pick up your rook. So I've messed up your pawn structure in front of your king. And I'm up a bishop for a pawn, I think, at this point. 3, 3, 3, 5, yeah. So you've got 4 isolated pawns. I've got 1. You've got a rook. I've got a bishop and a rook. So just winning. And I gotta say, when I saw this, I did think, yeah, I guess people are right. I don't like doing multiple tactics all the time and whatnot, but clearly being able to do tactical combinations is one of the ways that you're going to win a lot of games. We've entered the 2000s now on um, Lichess's ranking here, and still tactically we won this game. We obviously also had a nice opening, but yeah. So we took here, and at this point it was just a mop-up. I don't think the rest really has to have too much analysis. They're attacking our backwards pawn, but I don't really mind losing the A pawn because I can take here and here and here and everything else. So I took their A pawn first, and I realized I can do this, and then these pawns are all safe, and I can figure out if I want to protect both of these pawns. So they came back, I defended it again, and their bishop, then a rook can't do anything, so then I got to take that pawn. My doubled c pawn doesn't mean much, to be honest. It doesn't really change anything if I lose it. I still have a 2v1 on that side of the board, and my king can now move up also and protect. So I could have gone here and taken a doubled pawn and lost this pawn, but I actually don't think that double pawn is worth it. Having my h pawn seems a bit more valuable. King comes over, they gave me the pawn anyway. Bring my rook over, I'm happy to trade. And here, I mean, I could do like this and this and this and this, but that seems really silly, so I just move up. I'm winning anyway, I don't have to repeat. And I found the idea that I'm gonna question where this king is going. If it goes here, I think I might be able to get to it on the dark squares in some way, and if it walks away, I might be able to come pick up this pawn with my king. Because my rook is not taking care of my backwards pawn, so my bishop can like make its way across the game. Alright, so king comes up, I check him, they run behind the pawn, so now I think my bishop should play a role. I'd love to go here, but I can't. But I can go there, and then I'm still hitting this pawn. And here I find that I can attack it again. And here, actually, now my king isn't doing anything here, but I can walk my king over to this side and find some other avenue of attack. So here, here, here. And then they made a mistake and they pushed. If they didn't push, if they pushed here, I mean, I could probably still just hit the king. And then after they move, I can come in and hit the rook and all the pawns. If they move the king back for some reason, I wonder. I could still probably just attack the rook, and if he goes here, I could defend it in that way. Or I could then come check the king at the back. But anyway, they played f4, and here I just force a trade of rooks. You can't go sideways, you know you can't, and you don't want to sack the exchange, and as soon as you trade off rooks, the game's done, and GG, they resigned. So very, very happy to win the game. Incredibly relieved because I didn't want to not play the game. I'm trying to only play 15-10 games when it goes onto the playlist, but having my son wake up halfway was kind of stressful. And I do think that at the end of the day, tactics, I guess that as people say, tactics, calculation, intuition, tactics. I don't know if I was actually better in this position or not. I feel like I am, but I didn't actually know how to win, so I'm happy I found the tactic. Alright, so let's continue into the analysis board. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, our opponent, 1996. Oh wow, also very close to 2000s themselves. They ran the analysis already, and we were better, and then we were worse, and then we were crushing. Okay, let's have a look. Opening first. We can probably turn the sound on here. Alright, so the Nixmetodinov Rossolimo. I don't think I've ever heard anyone pronounce the front part of that name. Anyway. Alright, g6 main move, castle, bishop g, rook e1. Knight f6 is main, right? Before before e5, 96 is main. e5 second move. Before e5, I did mention this because then your knight kind of travels around the board like this, hits that bishop, and it has to make a plan, but I play e5 directly. It also stops them from playing e5, which I like. They did take, this is all still main line, but it's nice for me, I really like it. dx, d3, queen e7 is the main, knight e7 scores well for white. Ooh, knight e7 scores well for white, so kind of curious what the deal is with that. Let's see if we can find out. If we can find out why. Bishop e3, b6, knight bd, castle. Okay, but slowly, actually, we're just. Knight bd immediately scores very well for white. We would castle. Wow, this is crushing. Right, queen c7, bishop e3, b6. I mean, this is basically transposing. Queen c1. Queen c1 there. I don't mind trading off dark square bishops if you do that though, because I take this way and then I'm pretty good. Queen d2, a4, a4. I would have played a6 because this was my plan. Because here I don't like the knight coming here. No, snapping off is fine. Alright, I would have played h6, queen d2, queen d2. Everyone plays queen d2. I would have played my king up. Queen c3. Oh, I would be happy to play f pawn up as well, though. I've done that before. Okay, and let's just go a little bit further. F pawn, yep, I'm okay with this too. A5. And at this point, I mean, at this point, maybe you want to push. But this, again, is difficult to keep. So you rather develop your bishop, take back with your pawn. Yeah, now white is kind of shifting the focus a bit into the queen side, which is not where black wants to play as far as I know. I'm pretty sure I want to play on the... Alright, little man is funny asleep. Holy shit. Oh my god, this camera is getting absolutely no... Never mind, leave it, so silly. Um, alright. Alright, so this is maybe something we're going to have to reconsider. If knight e7 is that bad, maybe we play the queen up first? But this could all transpose. Everything could transpose here. So I guess maybe actually the point is just white needs to have the right plan against us. Knight bd2. Oh, then we can play knight f6. Ah, knight c and then knight d7. Wait, but then what about our light square bishop? Bishop h, rook e, takes, queen c, f pawn, a3. Alright, I guess we'll still have to face this continuation by someone who knows a bit better, because I haven't really faced this before. Anyway, continues. A3 first isn't really a move. There's like a few. Okay, well, I guess all of these is like only a few games anyway. Queen up, b4. Yeah, alright, and now we're out of masters, and the game is still pretty equal. Let's look at the top leeches quickly. Yeah, 2000 and up, classical and rapid. Still a few games here. Transposing again. Alright, h6 is a move. b5, f6. So h6 is my move. Alright, and now we're just out. h3. No one played h3. b4 is a move here. b4 I would take because I have the double pawn for it, so it's kind of nice. And oh, there's just so much everything. But I was probably going to play b6. This was my plan. And then queen c1 as an example. King h7 was also my plan. I mean, here I would snap off that knight and just mess up your pawn structure. So let's say you do that. I would take the knight. Oh, I would definitely take the knight. Let's see if it's bad. It's an idea. It's an idea. Alright, but anyway, so I think here we're out, and let's see. Okay, black had to play f3 in this position, so taking was just a mistake. Let's see what the line is with f3. f4, I was going to play that. Bishop back. Yeah, yeah, I mean, I said kingside attack, right? So I would continue like that. I would be happy with that. I don't know what this is about. What's that? Okay. I don't think I would have played rook f7. That makes very little sense to me. um, hmm. I might have considered trying to get my knight into some interesting squares around the board. So maybe I would have... No, but they've got a knight now. I would have snapped off the knight a bit sooner, maybe? I wonder. I would have tried to get my knight over here, and if they take, kind of claim that I've got an attack on their king or something. You'd love to get your knight over here, but can't do it without dropping the pawn. And I don't want to drop the pawn, because the queen side's getting a bit open. And I don't want to take because this knight's kind of silly right now. Or maybe I would have done this. Try and attack that some more. This doesn't make too much sense because now they can come here, which is not fun, and this pawn is going to be a bit weak. Tricky position. Tricky position. Alright, anyway, this is the continuation. So them taking was bad. I did think it was good for us that they took. And I do believe we have to take with the G-pawn. Yeah, only G-pawn is good. G-pawn takes. Now we've got this situation. Knight F1. Okay, and here, which move is best? King H7. Bishop D5. Wow, the engine just honestly tells me I'm silly so many times. No, no bishop takes, no E4. E4, E4 is still okay. King H, I'm not even going to look at that. How about this? F4, F3. Oh wow, okay, this is interesting. And just directly F3. If they take, we can take there, we can try jump out. That's dangerous. If they push past, we can take this pawn here. Okay, interesting. Alright, we didn't do that. Unfortunate that we got the wrong one. I guess the point is we did play F3, but we played it later on. Because I wasn't looking at F3 as the follow-up. So I never played it. Maybe in that case F3 makes sense. Alright, so we go over. Knight up is best. Oh, this is not even something I considered either. Just getting the knight over. Nice threat. Hitting this guy as well. Okay. Knight d5. Okay, stop calculating so I can just look. Also opening up the row for the queen to be able to come across. Oh, that's pretty good stuff. Okay. Alright, well, we didn't even consider that, so unfortunate. We just took, and now we've lost our advantage. That sucks. Oh, and a nice little tactic that we did not see. Okay, but they didn't see it either. So win us. And again, this plan, don't take the knight. Just put the bishop on the aggressive diagonal, hitting the pawn in front of the king. But I took the knight, and so there goes my advantage. Alright, f3 directly was best. I think it's the same point. You know, yeah, just open there, and if you push past, again, just open there. Okay. We didn't do that. Alright, we got our king in. Taking first was best. Oh man, we have so many mistakes here in terms of what was best. This felt good though. But anyway. And here, oh my goodness, f3 was bad. I mean, yeah, I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the time to calculate. I couldn't focus on kiddo. What do you say I'm supposed to do? Queen d6. And then they sack their knight. And we take it. And we're just trying to pressure here. Okay, I get the general idea. Okay, so mistakes were made. And that sack doesn't work. And this move doesn't work. Ah, and queen e2 is the best. I was going to do this. Coming back here, and then I would have to like figure out some attacking plan. Alright, but this is actually just great for white. Tough. Alright, that said, a rook f1 is also okay, defending this way. And king f4 is like, oh my goodness, there's actually so many ways for white to be okay here. Alright. Thankfully they didn't find it, and they just went to minus 4.8, minus 5 basically. Alright, so this is just blunder, losing completely, and we did see the tactic. Okay, then we mocked it up. Alright, so in terms of things we've learned here, um, if you want to play this continuation, apparently uh, very good for our opponents here. H6 was okay. Knight c4, queen c7, bishop e3, b6. This is a4. This all looks the same, except we didn't castle yet. I mean, this is basically a transposition to our game, so I guess it's not quite as straightforward as that. I want to play e5. I love that continuation though. So queen up first is a bit better, but again, aren't we just... No. Oh, but then you can play knight f6, that's the point. You play knight e7 here, up over... a3 is actually what our opponent played. What, am I missing something about why you play that? I don't know. And then, I mean, if I castle, we should be transposing back into... Basically, oh, but no, I don't have that yet. Hang on, so I want to play h6 first. Yeah, just this is basically what our game was, right? Yeah. All right, so queen up first, so that you can play knight f5 is an idea, and then the point of that is there, knight f6. So you can play knight d7 to defend the pawn, but then my light square bishop could never come out. Alright, b6. Trying to see, because like we're never worse here, right? I guess the point is just we have to be ready for the queenside attack. If there's a queenside attack coming, we've got to be ready for it. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble. Okay, but our opponent just never really got that plan going. We would have been able to do this. This is an obvious move to play. And here I think we would have had to figure out another plan. We've got more space, we've got the two bishops, we've got an outpost that can be contested. We only have one knight as well, which is something important to remember. We do have a pawn break, so we could, for instance, do like this, and then here, but they've got so many pieces they will be covering that square, so it doesn't really work. Alright, so we would have to look at that a little bit again, but at least the opening feels very solid, and play is incredibly fun. Look at little stats here quick, 91 and 81 percentage. We both had a blunder and a mistake, and I have 3 inaccuracies. I only have I have one mistake, one blunder. So our blunder is when we gave away our position's advantage by taking instead of playing on knight up, you know, moving it forward behind the pawn, gaining space. Didn't see all of these nice ideas. What would happen after this? Would we take here? Maybe I would actually still just, yeah, I would actually still just jump the knight. It's just nice to pick up the pawn. Um, yeah, let's say you defend yourself somehow. This is all just very good for us. Queen up. What have I just... What am I missing? Oh, you're opening up the game in a way that I don't like. Take, you take back. Take, you take back. I mean, I'm just trading off everything. Okay, I gotta defend everything, so you can't do that. You can take the pawn I don't care about, and then I can come. Okay. Alright, alright, so we need to make sure about that. And our mistake was not to trade off knife. I just didn't like this. It also brings up the rook, so now they can double up. That was one of the things I didn't think I want them to be able to do. Shows what I know. Alright, so that was there. And then our inaccuracies, we had a few, but I think at that level, we're not going to worry too much. Alright, so happy to win and continue moving up. Happy to play the Rossolimo. Very fun. And happy to learn a little bit more about the opening. So it's not that our opening was bad. We had, I think, the general idea. In no way do I think we would make any massive mistakes here. The only point was that we needed to take a bit more time to figure out this position. So getting here, we could have maybe sped up a tiny bit. Yeah, so we have a bit more time for this position. But anyway, Matthias RGG, good game, very fun. Maybe we'll play them again in the future. And with that, I think I will sign off. Thank you very much for joining. As always, take care, stay safe, and keep on improving. Bye-bye.